This is the Catch-22 interface from OneSwitch. The Catch-22 interface is similar to other adaptive controllers on the market in that there are switch ports that allow you to plug in adaptive switches to replace the buttons on a standard controller. For example, if I want to use this adaptive switch to control the A button, I can plug it into the A port, and now this adaptive switch controls the A button in the game. And there's adaptive switch ports for all the controls I need on a standard controller. In addition, there's USB ports, and I can take an adaptive joystick such as this and plug it into the USB port for the left joystick. And now this joystick will control the left joystick on my controller. In addition, there's a USB port for a help gamepad. So if I want to plug in a standard controller via USB, I can plug that in here, and it'll allow me to use this standard controller alongside my other adaptive inputs, similar to controller assist. The Catch-22 interface is available for the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 console, the PlayStation 5 console, and the Xbox console. The main benefit of the Catch-22 interface is on the Nintendo Switch console because it's much cheaper compared to the Hori Flex, and you can plug in a standard controller into it, and you can use it similar to controller assist, which is not available on the Nintendo Switch console. The PlayStation 5 version has some benefit, as it has more switch ports compared to the PlayStation Access controller, so might benefit someone who doesn't have enough switch ports to customize their setup when just using the PlayStation Access controller alone. Then the Xbox version will be fairly similar to the Xbox adaptive controller. The other nice thing about the Catch-22 interface is that there's a switch port for a walk forward button, and I'll demonstrate this later in the video when we're playing a game. But by plugging in the switch to the walk forward input, I can use this switch to walk forward in the game, and then use my joystick as the right joystick, and this will allow me to more easily play two joystick games. In the next part of the video, I'm going to demonstrate this controller in action on the Nintendo Switch, and demonstrate some of the features we discussed in this video. Now I'm going to show the Catch-22 interface in action on the Nintendo Switch 2 console. To use the Catch-22 interface with the Switch 2 console or the Switch, first you need to turn on Pro Controller Wired Communication by going to System Settings, then go to Controller and Sensors, and then go down to Pro Controller Wired Communication and turn that on. Then plug in all the peripherals you want to plug into the Catch-22 interface, then plug that into the Switch or Switch 2 console. Once it's plugged in, you should be able to utilize all your buttons and joysticks with the Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. Here I have a joystick plugged in as my left joystick. The Catch-22 interface will work with most adaptive joysticks that work with the Xbox adaptive controller, including the Xbox adaptive joystick. However, the buttons on the Xbox adaptive joystick might not be functional. And it'll work with any adaptive switch as well. And then right now I also have a standard controller plugged in for my helper gamepad. The helper gamepad can be any wired Pro controller for the Switch, a PS4 DualShock controller, or a DualSense PS5 controller for basic functions. You can also plug in the PlayStation Access controller, however not all buttons will be functional when plugged in. Now I'm going to show it in action, so I'm going to get into the game. And here I'm utilizing my joystick for movement. I'm the player in the upper left corner. And here I'm able to tap the buttons to control the buttons in the game, and then utilize the joystick as well for player movement. Alternatively, if I want to use the standard controller alongside the buttons, I can do that as well. Once again, I'm in the upper left corner. And this allows me to use it similar to controller assist, where I'm using a standard controller alongside my other adaptive inputs. And this was just an example of how it can be used for basic functions. And in the next part of the video, I'm going to show how to use the walk forward button to play a two joystick game. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to play a two joystick game using a single joystick using the walk forward button. Typically in games you'll have one joystick for moving around and one joystick for camera. However, this can be difficult for some gamers. If you plug a button into the walk forward button, this will cause your player to walk forward, or for the left joystick to be held forward. Then you can use a joystick plugged into the right joystick USB port to control camera movement. And by doing both of these together, you can effectively play most two joystick games just using a single joystick. This allows a gamer to play a two joystick game using one joystick instead of having to access two joysticks, which can be difficult. So here I can, as you can see, just walk around holding the button down and then moving the camera around using the joystick that's plugged into the right joystick key.